Hello everyone, I'm going to talk about how to make these pumpkins using Tunisian crochet today. Uh, they're going to come in three sizes. The smallest one is about 8 centimeters in diameter, this one's 10 and this one's 12. You can make them in a single color or two colors. I'm going to talk all about how to make color changes and in this video, and I am going to use Impeccable yarn by Loops and Threads. It's a medium weight yarn, so I think it's more worsted than iron, so worsted weight yarn, but for this pattern you could really use any yarn. It would just modify the size of your pumpkin and not the pattern. And I am going to use a 6.5 millimeter Tunisian crochet hook with this. So let's get started. Fall is here officially, but the weather is still, it's in the 90s here in Texas, in Austin, and while it doesn't feel like it, I'm preparing for when it comes. And here is a quick tutorial about how to make the pumpkins, and they come in three sizes. I'm just going to show you how to make the smallest size, but the instructions are very straightforward, and they're very similar for all the three sizes. The variation is in the number of rows and the number of stitches per row, but just going to use two stitches, the simple stitch and the reverse stitch. And I'm going to make this in one color today, but I'm going to talk about how you can do color changes and how you can make it in multiple colors. So let's get started. You can follow along and make it with me if you'd like, but I'm going to forward certain parts of the video so that you don't have to watch me make the entire thing. So that's just a heads up for you. So I'm going to start with a chain 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 10. And to make the foundation row stitches, I usually like to make them in the back loop here. I have a separate tutorial for how you can make this foundation row, and I'll talk about different ways of doing it, and you're welcome to check it out. 10 foundation stitches. I'm going to make my reverse pass. And that's it. That's the first of the foundation row. I like to just call it the foundation row. It's not really row 1 or row 0, even for that matter. It is the foundation row because the next row that I'm going to make is going to define what this row is. So let's go to the pattern. And so rows 1 and 2 are both simple stitches. So the first stitch, 8 simple stitches, so that's 1, 2, 8, and the last stitch, so that makes a total of 10. And reverse pass. And that is row 1, and row 2 is exactly the same. So this is 2 rows of simple stitches. Again, I have a separate video tutorial for for simple stitches and reverse stitches if you'd like to learn how to make those. I'm not going to talk about those in detail here. So this is 2 rows of simple stitches, and then rows 3 and 4 are 2 rows of reverse stitches. So I'm gonna make 2 rows of reverse stitches. This is the first one. there you go. That's one row of reverse stitches. That's row 3, and I'm going to make another one. That's row 4. Here, so that's 2 rows of simple stitches and 2 rows of reverse stitches. The pattern calls for doing the same thing, repeating rows 1 to 4 5 more times. So that will be sort of like having 6 bumps. Let me show you the pumpkin. So here is the pumpkin, and if you see, this is 1 2 3 4 5 6. So there's 6 of these, and this sort of forms one of them. So if you repeat this pattern 5 more times, I'll make 6 of those, and I'll talk about how to give it the shape of the pumpkin later. So I'm going to go ahead and do this in front of you. So another thing to note here is that I'm making this with 1 color, but if you were making this with 2 colors or more, you would change your color at the simple stitch rows. So row 1 is where you would have changed your color and made these 4 rows with that color, and then now I'm going to start working simple stitch rows again, and that is where I would change color again if I wanted to, but I'm going to make this in 1 color for the purpose of this tutorial, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to be increasing the speed of this video, so I'll see you on the other side of it. So this is the end of the second repeat, repeat number 1 actually. So this was rows 1 to 4, and these are rows 5 to 8, and I'm going to do this 4 more times. I have 1 2, and I need to do it 4 more times. This is the end of repeat 3, and this is how it's looking so far. So I'm going to do this 3 more times. That's end of repeat. Wow, that's end of row. That's 4 8 12 16. So that's 16 rows. I have 8 more to go. that's how it's looking. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I need one more repeat, and so this is going to be the last one. So I'm almost done here. There's just, so if you look at this sideways, there is 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 and 3 right now, but I'm going to make the last one, the last row. So the last row, the instructions are exactly the same. You need to make a row of Tunisian reverse stitches, and the only difference being that this is going to be a bind off row. So with every stitch that you make, you need to either make a slip stitch or a single crochet, whichever method you choose to bind off. I bind my rows off usually with the slip stitch method. There have been times when I've used the single crochet method, but for this project, the slip stitch works fine. So I'm just going to bind off and make the last row as Tunisian reverse stitches. Again, if you need help with how to bind off, you're welcome to check out my binding off video where I talk about both techniques in detail. That, and here is the last. So this is how it looks. You'll just get a big rectangle and you will have sort of 6 ridges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 made by the Tunisian reverse stitch rows. So now I'm going to talk about how to assemble this into a pumpkin, and you just need to first fasten off. So what I do is I just leave a very long tail, well, a few inches. I usually overdo it and I have a long tail. So it doesn't harm to have a long tail. You need a longish tail in this so that you can give it the shape of the pumpkin. So instead of cutting the yarn, I'm just gonna pull that very long tail, secure this nicely in a knot, and this is what I have. And now I'm going to thread my needle. So here is a needle. This is the one I use. You could use any needle for this. It's just that I like to use this one. So you thread the needle and you sort of first, well, you will join the 2 shorter edges first. So this is the short edge, this is the other short edge. So I'm going to fold this with the front together. So this is the back. I'm not going to weave this in because I mean, you could do that, but I just let it be because I am not very fond of weaving in tails and I just avoid it whenever I can. So I didn't have to in this case because I will just I will leave this inside the pumpkin and I won't have to worry about it. So to join this, I'm not sure what this method is called. So I'm just going to take my needle, insert it in the top 2 loops here and into the top 2 loops of the other one, the other edge, and pull. We'll not worry about this tail. I'm just going to leave it on the side, and then I'm going to take my needle from this side, the top 2 loops here, and then the top 2 loops here on both, and pull. And I'm going to go all the way doing the same thing, so that take the top 2 loops here and the top 2 here and the other way around, these two, and then these two. So I'm going to do this all the way to the end of this row, so I have it nice and secure. This is the last two, and now I'm going to just flip this inside out, so you see that the simple stitches end and the reverse stitches start right there, so that sort of makes it like a continuous round. Reverse stitches, simple stitches, reverse simple, reverse simple, reverse simple, and reverse simple. So it's hard to see the stitch join here unless you're actually looking for it, but especially in the case of a pumpkin where I'm going to wind this yarn around, it's to give it the shape of the pumpkin, it's not going to be visible at all. So now we have this, and here is where I had my last join. Now I'm going to bring the side to a close by weaving in my yarn into these last stitches like this. So you put it in from outside and inside out, outside in, inside out. That's the reason I like this needle for this specifically, because I can use this curve to do this part easily. So out in out, outside in, inside out. So just keep going throughout the throughout the length of the rectangle and throughout the length throughout the circumference of the pumpkin at this point. So just do this all the way to the beginning. This is where we started, and I'm going to just go into this one more time on the other side just to make sure that I close it properly. So now all you have to do is just pull. When you pull it really tight, the side, this closes, and that's pretty much it to close one side. And then I take my needle, and there's this hole in the center, and I push it through there to bring it to the other side. This is just so I can work on the other end now. So now I have this. I am going to fill it up. So I'm going to stuff it very lightly. I'm not going to add a lot of stuffing. So this is just some polyfill, and I'll do a little bit more. And that's about it. It's nice and squishy, so that's how I need it to be. I need it that way so I'm able to give it the shape that I want. So now I have that, and you see that other end somewhere here, it was this one. I don't really need to weave that in, that'll just stay inside. So I'm going to, you can actually start wherever you like, but so I remember I always started the join. So this is where I join my edges. I bring my yarn here and I do the weaving again, just like on the other edge. So there you go, I am here. I went the full round, and I'm just going to pull it to a close. So here it is. Well, it looks a little bit like a pumpkin right now, but so I'm going to now give it that shape that I want. So what I'm going to do is close this really tight and then find the bands of simple stitches and wind your yarn with there, the loose yarn. So this is my yarn. Actually, I'm going to go the opposite side. So here, so this is my band of simple stitches. I'm going to go that side and then find the band of simple stitches right on the opposite side, which is this one, and wind my yarn there. And I could potentially just stop here, but I like to insert it in that little this thing here so I can secure it, and then I'll find the other. So there were 6, right? So we just got 2. We've 4 more, so I find another one here and I find the one that's right opposite to it. So there's this one and then this one's right opposite to it. So that's the simple stitch band there. And again, I'm going to just secure it a little before I find that 3rd set. So there you go. And this is the 3rd set, this one and this one. So that is where I'm going to wind my yarn again. 1 and 2. And here, let's secure it. So here it is. This looks a little bit more like a pumpkin now. Just going to adjust the yarn on the opposite side, and here it is. So I'm just going to make a knot here so I don't unravel this by mistake. And again, I just make a couple more knots just to be sure this is nice and secure. And as I said, I always have way more yarn, but I think it's better to have more than less. I don't want to be attaching more yarn at this point to give it this shape. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my needle through here, bring it down to the other side. And now if you are very particular about things like I am, sometimes you can secure this at the other side as well, and just a knot. There it is. And I'm just going to put the needle through, bring it out the other side, and cut. There. So there's the little pumpkin. You could actually use it on either side. So that's how it looks from the side. And I have this twig that I picked up from my yard, and I'm just going to find some space here and push it in. And that's about it. So if you have children in the house, or if you worry that this might come out, you could secure it with a glue gun. Just be sure that it's not too hot, or I haven't done it, but I know that acrylic yarn could burn or maybe melt. So you have to be very careful about that, but you could just leave it in. It's fairly secure because of the nature of this. So that's about it. That's pretty much all there is to making these pumpkins.